Have you ever wondered about the gratuities and should you tip more and why are you tipping? Where's it all going? Why people talk about it? Why is it such a sore subject? If you ask if you should remove gratuities, what's going on with it? And today we're going to answer those questions for you. Hi, I'm Jeff from Enjoy Life Traveling. When you go on a cruise ship, one of the things that's going to be added to your bill, whether it be beforehand and you prepay it, or as you go day by day, they will add on at the end of the cruise your gratuities, and you're going to have to pay that at the end. Now, I say that with the understanding that one of the big questions that'll come up is, can you remove the gratuities? Short answer, yes, you can. You can go there and to the customer service desk and say, yes, I want the gratuities removed. It is not something that I do. It is not something that I recommend. And I wanted to explain that a little bit before I get into the rest of everything that goes on with gratuities. With gratuities, this covers basically everybody on the ship. They all get kind of a piece of that spread out. So when you look at it and thinking, well, this, room steward is getting this amount of money, it's being spread out through everybody it's out there, along with every other position that's out there, the people that are doing the laundry and all that kind of stuff. It's really not, in the grand scheme of things, a ton of money as far as what the crew receives. The caveat, and I think it's completely fair, is that, if you are on land and you tip, you're tipping the person that gave you the service and not necessarily everybody behind the scenes. And that stuff should be paid, arguably, by the employer. So why should you have to tip all these other people when really you want to tip the person that gave you the great service? And so the argument becomes, well, do you remove the gratuities and then just pay the people that meant something to you? And again, that's completely fair. But as far as the cruise lines goes, they spread it out and they want everybody to get a piece of that. And that's not something that the cruise line's paying direct. That's something that's an addition. That's what the gratuity is. It's an addition to what they're already receiving. And I would certainly agree with the argument that if you're just paying them up front and let us tip the people that we want to tip, that would be the better way to go. The other argument on that is that when you are working with these people, they are often from other countries that don't do tipping in their own country. And the ships that you're on are not even shipped from the U.S., and the U.S. is really the one that does the tipping. So again, why tip when that's not really the customs a lot of times that the people that are even working for you are accustomed to in their own country? It's an extra perk. And again, completely fair to look at it that way. If you've been on a cruise ship, for the most part, you have to realize how hard of a job that is, because they don't get days off. They have a contract and it might be 9 months, and they're working 9 months with very little free time. A 9 to 9 job in a lot of cases. These people are working 13, 15 hours with a few small breaks in there, and it's not like things are that we see here in the U.S. anyway, as far as how we work. So what they do, they get paid fair in some regards, and when you look at the fact that they are also getting their the room and board, everything's covered for them. It isn't necessarily that it's a bad life from that standpoint, but I think it's also one of the reasons that you see people from a lot of other countries doing these jobs versus maybe more Americans doing it, because those hours are not something that most of us do. We work a 9 to 5, even if we're on a salary. It might be a 10-hour day, it might be a 12-hour day, but even the people that have the 12-hour days, a lot of times it's a 3 or 4 day work week, not 7 days, and that's also continuing on for the next 7 days and the next 7 days and the next 7 days. So they put in a lot of time, and when you think about the generally positive attitude that those people have while they're serving you, it's actually pretty amazing, because I don't think a lot of people that I know, and I know a lot of wonderful people that could keep that up for that long of a time in the face of sometimes not being treated very well, which is unfortunate. But I want to get back to tipping, obviously. I just wanted to kind of put that out there so you understood what everybody's going through and why you do that. And again, I personally agree on the idea of keeping the tipping in there. If something went horribly awry, I would certainly understand going up there and saying, hey, this did not meet my expectations. I want to remove this portion of it. And Again, you do you. This is a personal choice. This is not something that you have to do, but it's obviously suggested at the outset that you pay what is supposed to be there as far as the daily gratuities and how they do that. So I want to get to the extras, what you do beyond that. And I say extras, if you remove the gratuities, you're still going to probably do this. For me, it's extra. And that is the people that are along the way that do provide some great service and how I tip. And this is going to be a personal preference. There are going to be people that are going to hear what I'm saying and say, I'm not going to pay that. And there's others going to look at it and say, that's not nearly enough. You should be paying more. So it starts, with me anyway, with the porters. So you're getting out of the taxi or out of your car and you get your stuff out there, and there's a porter that you're going to give your luggage to. Now, for me, I usually tip $5 to $10 depending on the circumstances. And I say the circumstances is because if they're just standing there and really no help other than putting it on a thing to move it, with all the other luggage just throwing it up there, I'm probably going to give them $5. Sometimes I may not tip. Usually I'll tip anyway. On the ship, there's a lot of people that are going to be taking care of you, and this is how I like to handle that. The room steward, I usually get an inside cabin. It is usually a comped cruise, as you've probably seen from my videos. I don't usually pay for a cruise. I go through the casino. But I still want to take care of the room steward. I'm not a particularly messy person. There's not a whole lot to it. Sometimes I may not even need them to clean the room. What I'll do there a lot of times is I'll put, depending on how long I'm on the ship, it might be $20, it might be $40 that I will give to the room steward if I've gotten some decent service there. Sometimes they're not engaging. I'm not really getting to know them. There's nothing there that I feel is like an extra value. And then in those cases, maybe I don't tip or don't tip as much. It's rare that I don't tip, but again, if I'm not getting the service, if I've asked for things or if things are taking a while, and I've already prepaid the gratuities, I don't necessarily feel like I have to pay more. I'm not removing the gratuities and not giving them anything. If I've prepaid the gratuities, which I always do, they're already getting something. And so that's my line of thought when I look at taking care of the room steward on that. Sometimes, like my wife will want, say, a bucket of ice every morning. A lot of times we'll bring our own cooler bag and we'll have our drinks that we'll want to put in there. And so if we can get ice in the morning and they bring that, that's kind of an extra service. And I appreciate that if that's done in the timely fashion that we're after. And so that's going to be reflective as far as extra tips. The main dining room is a little bit different because you've got people that are bringing you your drinks. You've got your main waiter and you've got the head waiter. Now, some people will tip all three. I only tip the waiter and the assistant waiter. If the service is good, usually this is a yes. And it's not usually a ton depending on the circumstances there. If I'm with a group, it's going to be different than if it's just, my wife and I or just me. And again, it might be, I will do it for the entire stay as a whole rather than a day by day kind of a thing. And I say that because I'm spending almost every dinner in the main dining room. I'm not one to venture off. In specialty dining, I've done it. And I'm not one to do dinner in the Windjammer very often. And if you want to tip them instead of just handing them cash, what you can do is I like to go to the guest services day before. And when it's slow, you don't want to be in line for this, and ask for tipping envelopes. A lot of times your room steward will leave you at least one in there. It says, like on Royal Caribbean, it'll say tip, tip, hooray. And you put your money in there for whatever tips that you want to do. When I'm doing this for the wait staff, instead of just handing them cash. I've done that, and it just feels different. I like to just hand them the envelope. So we'll put on the names if we're in a group. That's one of the things that we will do. A lot of times I'll be in a group of friends, and I'll ask everybody to pitch in, whatever the amount is. Again, maybe it's $20 a person, and we put that in there, and we'll sign that to the main waiter, and then I'll ask for $10 for the assistant waiter per person. And I'm just giving you a rough, I don't know how many days necessarily each one is. Just giving you a rough ballpark here. And then that way I can seal it, put their name on it so they know who it's to, and I can hand that to them and they know that they're appreciated. A lot of times when I hand it to them, I will say, hey, I just wanted to thank you on behalf of the table. We really appreciated your service and everything you did for us, and just kind of leave it at that. Thank you. And I'll do that for both the assistant waiter and the waiter, more of a personal kind of a gesture. And I'm not necessarily always in the main dining room. I don't usually tip in the Windjammer, but I have. because if I'm sitting there, and I had one time when I was not just 100%, but I was wanting something, and someone had come up to me and said that, can you get me something? And I asked, can you get me something from the bar? And they said, yeah. So, they went and brought me a cocktail. I had at the time the drink package. They brought it to me, and I tipped them $1 for that. They came by again and asked if I needed something. And I just said, well, is water okay? And they said, well, yeah, I'll get you water. And they came back with the water, and I tipped them $1. And at that point, and this was like my second cruise, I've done 15 as of this video, they were on top of me as far as making sure that I had everything I needed. It was apparently known that I was going to tip, and I don't think you see a lot of tips in the Windjammer, and that seemed to be very much appreciated. So that was kind of like being in the casino, which is another place I'll go straight to, is that if you want great service, I mean, they're going to do their job, but there's so many people there. But if you want to stand out to where they're wanting to wait on you, you got to give them a reason, and a tip can be it. And whether that be the pool or if that is the casino, I like to tip. And I'm a Prime member in the casino. I get all my drinks for free. I don't even have to get up. They usually will come to me. But there's a lot of people in the casino, and trying to keep track of who's done what can be difficult. But if they know that you're tipping $1 every time, particularly for us, we're not moving around machines much. If you've seen my videos, I will play a machine for hours on end, the same machine usually. So they know where I'm at, and they don't have to search for me. And I'll get them that $1 tip, and I'll say, hey, if you could check on me in about 15 minutes, I'd appreciate it. 15, 20 minutes comes by, and I'll order another drink, knowing it's going to take a minute to happen. And that keeps the service going the way I want. And I like good service. I appreciate good service a lot. I mean, since I worked in the service industry, I think I've seen this with a lot of people. If you've worked in that industry and that's been a part of your income is tips, you approach it differently. And just a quick side note, I remember I did some driving on the side with like Uber and Lyft, and 20% of the people would tip you anything, no matter how long the tip was. 20% would be about the number. If I was taking like a waitress to a job, which is going to be generally speaking, a lower end paying job, I was going to get a tip for sure, because they understood that field, that you're in the service industry. But if I was taking, a businessman from place to place, from an airport, some distance to, an office building, a lot of times you wouldn't see a thing. So no judgment. I'm just saying that when it comes to tipping, if you think, oh, well, they're getting all these tips from all these people, they're not. And I don't even know on a cruise ship if it's even that prevalent for 20%, because the automatic gratuities are there, and it's getting, sort of diluted between everybody on the cruise ship. When I go to a bar, I will usually also tip extra on that as well. I'll go up there, I might get a drink for me and my wife, and I'll throw $1 up there for that. If you are paying for it, if you're wondering how the tips work, if you hand them $1 and it is at a bar, that is going to be kind of just like it would in the bars in the U.S. and such, as that's kind of in a bucket a lot of times, and it gets spread out. Whereas if you are ordering the drink and you're signing a ticket, that goes to the person that rang it out. So if you're wanting to help the person that rang it out, and you're wondering, well, they would probably prefer cash over having you write it on a receipt, I've asked them directly about this, and they've said that, yeah, if you tip on your receipt to the person that gave it to you, they receive the tip, versus putting it in the bucket and spreading it out through all of the people that are there. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that's the process on it, is that they appreciate having that tip that's written on there, because they know that it's directed for them. The thing that I would tell you if you really want to help out your people, and particularly if tipping is hard for you, if you can't, if it's just, you're stretched your budget, again, no judgments on that. But I would tell you that if you really want to help your people out even more, is to complete the survey and give them a 10. The way that the cruise ships work, and I personally find it unfair, is that anything that is shy of a 10 is held against them. So, but if you give them 10s, then that's when they get the accolades and can be helps with promotions and such like that. So even for me anyway, if the service wasn't 100%, but it wasn't bad, I'll still give a 10 rating on it if it was good, but maybe not exceptional. If it was an 8, I'll still give them a 10 on it. And I also like to very much, and anybody who's cruise is going to tell you this, is to know the name of the person and put their name on there. When you're filling out the survey at the end of the cruise, you only have like 6 days to do that. So have their names. Like, I'll take a picture of their name tag, and that way I know who it is I'm dealing with, and I'll put that information in there. So when they want me to put in a spot where I can comment versus just the ratings 1 to 10, I'll want to highlight those people that have made the cruise better for me. And there's usually quite a few. Those waiters that are taking care of me at the bar, the ones that are taking care of me at the pool or at the casino. I try to highlight those. If it was exceptional, I don't just throw their names out because they were there. There'll be a lot of people, but if there's a couple of people that just really stood out and kind of made that trip better for me because of, there was some engagement, we kind of got to know each other, that's what I like to do. So I realize that's not part of necessarily, you call it the tipping that we're talking about, but it's a tip. And it's a tip that really helps the people that you're wanting to tip, that you're wanting to recognize for the service. The next thing I want to get to is you're getting off the ship and you've got your porters. Now, for me, I strongly believe in using the porters under most circumstances, and they're doing more work here than when you're getting on the ship. Usually when you're getting on the ship, like I said, that's you stand in there and they just take it off the car, throw it on their rack, and it's done. Getting off the ship, depending on your port, if you find a porter, they'll get your luggage, they load it all up, and they will walk you through the entire place, and they'll have a point that they can go out to reach your car if you're parked, which could be a little farther, or if you're catching a taxi or a shuttle. And this can really speed up your process depending on the porter and what port you're at. So I will absolutely tip and be prepared to tip at least $5 per big bag that I have. So usually we've got 2, sometimes 3. I'm going to have $10, $15 that I'm going to make sure that they get if they've done that extra service. If I'm self-disembarking, obviously, because I'm trying to catch a flight, and that's a different story. But I'm talking about when that guy's got to really get your luggage, get it on that rack, run it through a lot of these people, and they weave through the people much better than what we do, and they will just get behind them, and you're going to weave right through them, and the next thing you know, you're at your taxi or you're at your car. As far as one big tip I would tell you that I want to leave you with is that, and I kind of touched on this, do not post on Facebook about tipping. Certainly don't ask about removing tips. You're welcome to feel that way. I'm hoping that this video will answer those questions for you, and I wanted to answer all the questions for you because I knew that if I didn't put it in there, that someone was going to ask the question, and then it turns into a comments of that's just a mess. And if you've cruised several times, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Someone posts on that and the strong feelings hit, and it just turns into this, get the popcorn out and start watching the shit show. Excuse my language. It's not good. So I would strongly avoid putting that out on Facebook unless you're just that person that's got to stir the pot. Anyway, a little bit long video from what I was thinking. I hope I've answered all the questions. And again, keep your comments in there. I want to hear from you. Hopefully we'll talk to you soon. Thanks. This is Jeff from Enjoy Life Traveling.